Teams are now on the ground gathering evidence of war crimes in places like Borodyanka and Bucha. Human Rights Watch is leading some of those searches. An EU director and advocacy director for Europe and Central Asia division at Human Rights Watch, Philippe Dam, joins me now with more on that. Philippe, thank you for being here. You know, your people, I know, have been investigating in Ukraine since the start of the invasion. So what are some of the more striking things they've uncovered so far?
Right. We've been able to document the situation since the first hours of the war. And what we've seen quite quickly is a range of indiscriminate bombing, shellings on civilian populated areas, particularly the use of highly explosive weapons or cluster ammunitions in cities. And that included, of course, the cases we documented in Kharkiv, in Mykolaiv in the south, in Chernihiv in the north, and in the suburbs of Kiev. Those attacks have led to the death of dozens of civilians because they are indiscriminate, because they are reckless. They do constitute violations of international human rights law and potentially war crimes. We've also documented more recently, in fact, before the images emerged from Bucha and Irpin, cases of extrajudicial killings of civilians, two of them in Kiev suburbs and one in Chernihiv suburbs, cases where people were rounded up or killed in their homes by Russian forces. Unfortunately, the few cases that we documented at the time were just one piece of the range of killings that we've seen emerging in the suburbs of Kiev. And we are currently documenting the situation in Bucha and Irpin and other places around Kiev with a view to try to exactly know what happened to those people, to exactly know who killed those people, and try to identify who is responsible for those crimes.
And when you look at incidences like this train station attack now and Russia denying involvement, what's the research process like on the ground, and how do you protect against being deceived by either side and being, deceived by false flags?
Well, look, there are different kind of sources that we are using. The first ones will be pictures, satellite imageries, videos and photos from the ground, and which will help us to identify, some indications like the types of weapons which are used, potentially their geographical origin, corroborating the place of impact and their consequences on civilians. And a second important range of sources are obviously testimonies from the victims. People will tell us in many cases what they saw, what they heard, where they saw the bombing coming from, cross-cutting those kind of evidence help us to rebuild the narrative of exactly what happened. And this is when we can reach conclusions about the exact category of crimes and potentially try to look at who is responsible for those attacks.
And yesterday, the UN voted to suspend Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a clear move about what the UN General Assembly could do. As you know, to sit as a member of the Human Rights Council, states have to refrain from human rights violations, but can also be suspended if they commit gross and serious human rights violations. And that's clearly the case of Russia's invasion, in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I think the UNGA General Assembly took stock of that reality and concluded that Russia was not fit to sit as a member in the UN's top human rights body. And this is a decision which was taken with a broad majority, not only Western countries, and that's important. A lot of countries from all regions of the world have supported this suspension, and it clearly shows that the outrage is global and that Russia needs to be held accountable for what's happening.
All right, EU Director, Advocacy Director for Europe and Central Asia's Division at the Human Rights Watch, Philippe Dam, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.